So we have some customers' doors here. The big issue you can see is the panel is damaged. Not sure how that happened in their house. These are old doors. They've been in their house for years and years. There are two other doors, and what we're going to do here is remove the large panels from the two larger doors and replace those with a decorative glass. And then I will use one of those panels from the larger door to replace that damaged panel. I'll cut it down and replace it. It's very difficult to match the color, and making a new door would be also a hassle because it's sort of a strange profile. So this is going to be a how-to video, how to add glass to a door that's got a panel in it. Okay, one of the first things I have to do is get my table saw blade set to the correct height. I've put a piece of blue painter's tape on the saw. You'll see what that's for in a minute. But I need to cut on the door right to just under where that tongue is. So right to this line right here. So I've set that door down on the table, and it's going to be difficult to see there. Raise the blade up until the outside set tooth is just cutting up to that height. That's how I got my height. Now I need to set the fence on the saw, and you can see the edge of the door to where that tongue starts is just under 1 3/8. So that's what I'll set my rip fence to on my table saw. Okay, here's where that blue tape is going to come in. What I need to determine on my saw here is just exactly where this front tooth goes into the table. So I'm going to make a mark there, and also on the back side of the saw where it comes out of the table. So I'm going to make a mark there. I put that blue tape down because I don't want to make a mark permanently on my saw. It's a pretty expensive saw. So now I can make another mark back here, and I will measure that out to be probably about 1.5 inches to leave me about 1/8 of an inch to finish off with a different saw. So I'll do that, and then we'll show you how we're going to make the cut. Alright, it's worth noting here I had to remove the riving knife from the saw. And this is also a very safe table saw. It's a saw-stop saw. I'm a professional woodworker. I've been doing this for 20 years, but table saws are inherently dangerous. If you don't have a very safe saw with the stop mechanism, you may consider not doing this, because I am going to have to plunge the door over and lift it off at those marks that I made, and I'll do that in just a second here. But if you're not experienced with a saw, I don't recommend doing this. It's not super difficult, but it could be a little bit dangerous. All right. Saw is ready. Give it a shot. Alright, so after making that first cut, there were a couple things I didn't like. One, the door was sticking on me a little bit. They're been in the kitchen, they got a little grease on them. I cleaned the doors off to make them easier to push. Also shot some of that Boss Stitch glide coat on the saw. Should make it slide a little easier, and you can see I used a dry erase to make a couple marks on my fence so I could go with a little more confidence. So let's see what I can do here. Try to finish the other three. lot of ways to finish up these corner cuts. I've marked that, you can see, with the dry erase marker, so I can finish cutting it. I stopped shy of it, cutting all the way through. I'm just going to use this vibrating cutoff saw here. This particular one is just from the local home center. It's Rockwell. I've had it for years. Fine makes a really nice one. I think just about everybody has one. I'm going to cut those corners out, and then I should be able to lift that panel straight out of there. Okay, so I've cut all 4 corners and I'm ready to lift this panel out, the damaged panel, you can see. So that looks pretty good. You can see I've squared off the corner with that little saw. You do have to be a little bit careful that you don't cut all the way through the door. And in this case, there were some little brads holding that panel in, which something you need to take in consideration. Also, if it's a raised panel, there may or may not be a little rubber ball in there, a space ball, or some sort of device to keep the panel from rattling. So be aware of that when you're using the table saw. That's a potential little bit of a hazard there. So that one's good. I will go ahead and do the other 2 doors. Now, some people have asked me why I don't just cut them all at once. And the answer to that is this is a Toyota method here. One piece flow. We're going to do one of them at a time. That way, if there's some kind of a problem in our process, we will only make that mistake on one door and not wreck all 3 of them. So as much as possible, we do that where we feel it won't interfere with productivity. So the other 2 we haven't done at all, but we'll cut those and then move on to the next step. All right, I've cut this second door now all the way around. Now, one of my friends asked me what I used to make that mark, and I have this little square here, and I have actually chosen to use a dry erase marker here to mark this out, because you could use a pencil and I'm sure, yes, it makes a finer line. It's also way more difficult to see on a stained oak board like this, so I'm careful about where the outside of my pen mark is, and I will use that square to make an accurate mark, and one more importantly that I can see really well when I'm using the cutoff tool. I have cut and removed now the 3 panels using just that same technique we showed in the first one. So now the larger 2 doors will get the new glass panels, and the smaller door we will cut down one of the other panels to replace the damaged panel on that one. Okay, my next step is to size this panel. I've checked the glass door panels that we received from the customer. They fit well. Determined that the best size for this panel is 16 1/4 by just under 19 3/4, maybe 19 11/16. So I'm going to put that in here on the big saw. 19, let's say 0.7. That will move my rip fence over to where it needs to be. It's locked in. That's very accurate. It's actually very easy for me to move that back and forth just with typing the buttons in. And that fence is accurate to within 1/10 of a millimeter. That's certainly not necessary here. You could just cut this with the regular saw, but this is our most accurate saw. So I'm ready to cut the panel. It's also worth noting that this saw has a little blade in the front that's called a scoring blade that will keep the bottom side of this veneer from chipping. I guess I'm going to go ahead and do this while I hold the camera. Seems like crazy town, but here we go. Now I'm going to see on the door here where it doesn't have stain, I'm going to be cutting that off because I don't want any chance of that spilling through. Yeah, issue. Okay, got the fence set incorrectly there. So, first a little pass to clean off that light streak on the outside there. Good. And now I will feed this through the saw just like a regular table saw. Okay, that's also good. And now I'm ready to cross cut, so whole arm slice here. Makes my life much easier. It's part of the reason the saw is very accurate. And now I've got my other stop set just under 19 3/4. So put up against the stop here. Okay, let's take that over to the door and see if we've got it sized correctly. Okay, in order to attach the glass panels in, I'm going to be using this clear caulking. This is a siliconized acrylic, which is nice because it means it's a water cleanup. But I'm going to put a small bead of that around the door here, like so. It's not critical that it's completely covering, although I do prefer to use the clear, definitely, because if any of it squeezes out, I don't want white caulking showing through on the other side of the door. So, pardon my camera work here. I'm holding the camera with one hand and putting the caulking on with the other. So now I will set the glass in that, and then we'll set a weight on it. Okay, the caulking is on. I've put a small amount of weight. Obviously, I don't want to break the glass. That is not a full gallon. It's really only part of a gallon. I've used water bottles before, but you could see that the caulking is spreading out. I probably will put a dab in each corner, and then I will caulk in the other two panels. They'll be ready for the customer to pick up in the morning after they dry overnight. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Of course, these were existing panels. This is more common for us to put new glass in our doors that don't have panels in them already. And you can use these same techniques to cut out that back tab. Although there are some better ways that use rubber stops, I found this to be fairly effective. So if you got any questions, you can email me. It's Ted Pancoast at att.net, or you can post a comment below. Remember, if you like it, subscribe to the video, and we'll talk to you guys sometime later.